Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Tim Kramer. I am one of the business development directors here at Lean Techniques. Thank you for coming and joining us today. Before we get started, we just want to welcome you if this is your first time. We're glad you're here. Lean Bites are intended to be short, 16-minute talks where our experts provide you with simple, practical tips and techniques that you can start using today within your organization. Before we get started today, number one, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'd be happy to address them at the end if time allows, or we can follow up with you via email after this as well. And number two, please do us a huge favor, complete the survey that will automatically pop up following the session. Your feedback's important to us, and it helps us to shape these as informational events for you and for others in the future. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my fellow LT friends and coworkers, Alex McClure and Jacob Reed. Both Alex and Jacob have been with LT from almost the very beginning and are some of our staff engineers that step into organizations sight unseen and really help to transform wherever they're at. They are going to be going over part one of a two-part series. This is part one of moving from Azure DevOps to GitHub Actions using AI to accelerate your CI/CD modernization. From there, take it away, fellas.
All right, thank you, Tim. We're gonna be talking about how to use AI to actually, get moved off, right? How do we actually do that dirty migration over? So what we're gonna start talking about is kind of the problem statement, what we went into this idea or with the idea of, then leveraging reusable workflows, making things more standardized across your organization for CI/CD practices, using AI to then accelerate that piece, and then what outcomes we saw from doing this. So the problem statement is we had about 2,000 repositories inside of Azure DevOps to be moved to GitHub Enterprise. Now that did get whittled down a little bit throughout the idea, can we drop some of these off, drop off the tech debt, any of the things that we don't really end up needing. So it came down to closer to about 600 that we were actually looking to move right away. These covered a variety of languages, including .NET, Java, Python, Node, both front end, back end, batch processing, all across the board. There were tens of thousands of secrets exposed through ADO pipelines, but so it was really not something that we wanted to just direct migrate over from, some of the bad practices of exposing those secrets or keeping them in line in either, the new ADO templates or in some of the ADO Classic pipelines. And then along with that, with it being ADO Classic pipelines, a lot of those are GUI based. You can do the YAML. It doesn't always work. It has a convert to YAML. It's not the best feature out there. Um, so there's typically some trouble with trying to get those into YAML and then get them translated to GitHub Actions, which is close, but not the same. Um, and then the wants of the client were going to be, we want all teams to use basically the same process for deploying. There's going to be little nuances and difference based on the technology they're using and whatnot, but they should all follow the same general process, which came out to be just a general build once, deploy many, run your tests on every PR, run your tests on every push to main, do a build, publish that out once, and then pull it into your other environments. Hopefully a smoke test check after that too. Um, and then fully manual conversion would be way too slow for this. There's way too many repos. Every team still has feature work they want to do. So what are ways that we could accelerate that, lower the barrier to entry of being able to get these repos migrated over, these pipelines migrated over? So to kind of go into building consistency of this, we took a templated approach. GitHub allows for you to have templated actions that you can then reuse across your organization. Make them available at an org level or an enterprise level, and you are able to very easily call those in from within other workflows and pipelines inside of your organization. All of these follow that build once, deploy many. We were using GitHub Advanced Security for secret scanning to make sure we weren't bringing over some of those bad practices of exposing secrets from ADO. And then we stored the secrets in GitHub environments, which would then be pushed out to AWS Secrets Manager for actual consumption during the deployed process. Uh, there were also necessary approval gates for auditing SOC 2 compliance. Um, so we set those up so that based on a certain user role, you could have a secondary approver onto any production uh, or any higher production-like environment to follow with auditing there.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So one of the hard parts about migrating to GitHub Actions from ADO is that there's no automated way to make that change. There's a few scripts that Microsoft has created, but none of them are perfect. They're not going to get you 100% of the way there, or maybe even 50% of the way there. Um, so one of the ideas we came up with on how to kind of accelerate that adoption curve was to use AI. And one of the things we had available to us at this client was GitHub Copilot. So we had this idea where we were going to create an issue in a repo. So it'll kind of look like this. We'll have a request template for onboarding those new repos onto GitHub Actions. And what we use this for is to prompt the AI on how to use those GitHub Action workflows. So you tell it your repository name, the technologies you're using, say you're using Node or Python, because we had all of these different types of technologies that was important to us, the environments you wanted to deploy to, and then kind of any secrets that you also had. And then we took all this information, we sent it to GitHub Copilot and said, hey, create a prompt to be able to onboard this repo into our shared workflows. So once you assign that to GitHub Copilot, it'll automatically start working on that request in the background. You can watch it go through the flow of, prompting itself, trying to understand the repo, what checks need to be put in place, like how do we run tests? How do we lint this project? How do we deploy this project? And eventually, it will create a PR in that target repo with all the changes necessary to move to GitHub Actions. So going back to this slide, that was the idea that we came up with, and kind of what we found out. We tried it with a couple pilot teams just to kind of make the necessary changes to improve the prompt. Our initial tries, probably didn't solve all the problems, but as we kept iterating on that workflow, iterating on the prompt, we found it to be pretty successful in being able to create the necessary workflows to onboard those EDO repos into GitHub Actions. We think it covered around 80% of cases, and while it wasn't a complete process, it was definitely an accelerator to help teams migrate quicker and reduced a lot of that manual effort that the teams would have if they were just writing the code themselves. So those were some of the outcomes that we saw. We we think there's still some work to be done, but we definitely enjoyed it and learned a lot from this experiment.
Have a great day.